there in Melbourne, the hip hop community is also very active, very big. I was just working out at a YMCA and I saw a group of about 20 guys
Hmm.
in their 20s and 30s just breakdancing, just at a gym right there. And I thought, well, I do that. So when I go join them, well, as I started to engage, and I was there for 6 months, start to
Okay.
engage this group of guys, I heard their stories, right? And how important story is, right? And I heard their stories, and what stuck out to me was almost all of them, from what I remember, had deep father wounds, if they had a father at all, most of it from father absence. And then
Hmm.
I saw some of their kids at this practice, some of these younger guys, and they were repeating that process as I started to hear more of their story, with their sons. And that process was generational. And that for me is where God really started to move my heart
Yeah.
towards these men because it lined up a lot with my story,
Right.
right? It really did. And then the difference, though, was that they had no positive experience with the church, with a community that would love them and be with them as I did.
Mhm.
And that is where God then really spoke to me pretty loudly, and then saying, "Hey, this is where I want you."
Escape the cage now. Be the lion you was destined to be. Born ready for the war, now my effort is free. The level's been set, time to wrestle the beast. Testing my G, it's getting heavy indeed. The struggle I embrace now, never retreat. I see the test.
Welcome, everyone, to the Lion Counseling Podcast. I'm Mark Odland, founder of Lion Counseling and certified EMDR therapist, where our mission is to help men to break free, to heal deep, and to become the lions God created us to be. And if you're looking for help, you're always welcome to schedule that free 30-minute call at escapethecagenow.com. Well, my guest today here is Michael Swalley, who is doing amazing things in his life and in his ministry. And I get the privilege of calling him a good and old friend. We go way
Mm.
back. So, Michael, welcome to the Lion Counseling Podcast.
Mark, it is, yeah, so good to be here.
Yeah,
And thank you, yeah, for the invite.
yeah, my pleasure. It's one of those things
Mhm.
where, when we see each other, it feels like we can catch up like no time has passed. But it's
Exactly. Yeah.
here we are on the podcast, and uh, maybe to begin, just to flash forward, you have this very unique ministry called Break
Mm.
Free, where you're working with breakdancing with b-boys across the country and across the world.
Mm.
So hang on, everyone, to hear about this amazing ministry.
Yeah, well, like for most hip hop ministries, I started in a small town in Minnesota, right? So hip hop flowing right out of there. Where I love to start, Mark, I'm a son,
Yeah.
and as someone who loves Jesus, believes the gospel. At the heart of the gospel is adoption. It's
Mhm.
relationship, right? Into a family, and by God's grace, I was adopted in at a young age. Grew up in Alexandria, Minnesota, where I met Mark Odland. And you know, I'll just share this. Two
Yeah.
two very formative experiences for me in my life happened before I can remember. And
Okay.
it was on my first birthday, so 1981. My mom was diagnosed with MS, and she's an incredible woman, has been a rock in my life. But she was diagnosed with MS when I was one. And then about 6 months later, my dad died. He took his life. And so growing up, I saw the physical challenges and really at the heart of sin, right? And just what sin can do in the physical body and also relationally and within the family structure, right? So growing up
Yeah.
without a father, those two things have really shaped a lot of who I am and really a lot of my passion and purpose as well, which I'm sure
Yeah.
we can get into later. But as most men know and find through our hardship and suffering, often we find, right, our passion
Yeah.
and purpose. But I grew up, though, Mark, with an incredible spiritual family. The church was very dynamically involved in my life. When I go back to Alexandria, these same people I see,
Mm.
right? And the kids of these people, who are very involved in our lives. But we had this Bible study at our house, Mark, and some of my first memories are of these men and women who, yes, I would hear the gospel from, but these would be the same people who are bringing us meals, right? Who were fixing our car for a single mom of two kids, struggling physically.
Yeah.
I saw that. And so from a very early age, the gospel, I believed and I
Wow.
saw it.
Wow.
I heard it and I saw it. And so from that time, and I've had a lot of men in my life who have invested in me and a lot of people because of that community. Again, I can sit here today and say, yes, I'm an adopted son, believe in Jesus and have a spiritual family. I have a wife, Ellen. We've been married for 14 years. We live now in Colorado Springs. We've been out here for about 5 years. Ellen and I have four kids, three girls and a boy. And as you said, I get to live my passion in vocational ministry in a ministry called Break Free, where
Mm,
not on my radar as we were growing up, though in the 80s, right? All of us, I feel like we're trying to break dance, watching MTV and
right.
breaking two, right? Never did I think this is how God would use my life story and my passions, but here we are. And so that's
Whoa.
a little bit of me. Yeah.
Well, I can say not all of us are trying to break dance, Mike. I mean, I
You worked. Come on. I saw this guy, everybody. He had no inhibition dancing. And
Oh
yes,
yeah, that's true. The school dances were epic. That
they
for
were
for
epic.
those who know, that's yeah. But now I'm so curious. I'm trying to think back because we went to high
Yeah.
school together. We were one grade apart, but man, we were in the trenches playing football together, playing tennis, and
Yeah.
hanging out a lot with a good group of guys. And
Yeah.
but in the midst of all that, when did you when did breakdancing like start to become a passion for you? And when did you actually
Yeah.
start developing that skill? Because there was a lot on your plate in high school. And then
Yeah.
I know you went on to play football in college too. And
Right.
with everything going on, where was there room for breakdancing? And how did you discover that passion for it?
Yeah. And so growing up, as you said, Mark, football was, yeah, very much a passion of mine. And it wasn't something where I was going to play at a professional level, but yeah, played at a D3 school. But I'm really thankful. I went to a school, Christian school outside Chicago, Wheaton
Yep.
College, where all of my coaches took football very seriously, but took even more seriously the Lord and investing in young men. Right. And
Right.
so the struggle for me growing up, and I was very much a peacemaker and really wanted to perform well, was tying my identity to my performance, really in anything, whether it be the field, the tennis court, the,
Sure.
schooling, and seeing success at all of these things.
Yeah.
Um, and so when I got to college, it was my junior year. I had too many concussions and I was cleared or not cleared to play anymore. This was in the early 2000s, right? Where they were starting to really get serious
Yeah.
about that. And so a big part of my identity and performance on the football field was then taken away.
Mm.
And I struggled a lot with that. But again, had these coaches in my life, these men who still invested in me. And I saw, wow, I can't perform on the field, but here are men who are still investing in me, still care about me. And God was using that in my journey, right?
Yeah.
To
Yep.
continue to knock out those lies that we believe. And that was one of those big moments of, Michael, you're not who you are on a field, right? You're not loved because of what you can do. So that was big for me. And in that season, I
Mm.
was looking for an athletic outlet, just something. And at Wheaton College at the time, we couldn't dance, but
Oh, that's ironic.
that was all right. But
Yeah.
breakdancing was not a social dance. So we could
Okay.
square dance and we could break dance.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Are you saying that there is a fork in the road and you almost had a square dancing ministry?
There we go, right? That fork, right? There we go. That was almost there. This would be a very different conversation
Yeah, you'd be wearing
if
cowboy boots and a huge belt buckle. And yeah, I mean, any,
that's right. That's right. But I went the road less traveled, I think, when breaking. um, but truly, I just saw it as like a fun athletic outlet.
yeah.
It's just, and I was pretty fascinated by it. So I just started doing it as a hobby, uh, and had no intention at this time, right? There was really even no passion for the dance. It wasn't like I fell in love with the dance, and
Mm,
I didn't know at the time, right? But so I was right outside Chicago. In all of these major cities, there's this underground community of hip hop, and
mm,
it's not even performance based, but it's more communal based, where
okay.
mostly men will get together and meet and practice and dance and, all these things. Didn't know it. Just
Hmm.
thought, hey, this is a fun thing to do. After college, I went to do an internship at Focus on the Family in
Hmm.
Colorado Springs just for
Yeah.
6 months. And then myself and a few others, we were younger, had graduated college. We thought we want to go to Australia.
Hmm.
Focus on the Family had a branch out there. So we went to volunteer at Focus on the Family in Melbourne. That for me, Mark, God used that to change again the trajectory of my life
Okay.
in a new way. So there in Melbourne, the hip hop community is also very active, very big. I was just working out at a YMCA and I saw a group of about 20 guys
Hmm.
in their 20s and 30s just breakdancing, just at a gym right there. And I thought, well, I do that. So when I go join them, well, as I started to engage, and I was there for 6 months, start to
Okay.
engage this group of guys, I heard their stories, right? And how important story is, right? And I heard their stories, and what stuck out to me was almost all of them, from what I remember, had deep father wounds, if they had a father at all, most of it from father absence. And then
Hmm.
I saw some of their kids at this practice, some of these younger guys, and they were repeating that process as I started to hear more of their story, with their sons. And that process was generational. And that for me is where God really started to move my heart
Yeah.
towards these men because it lined up a lot with my story,
Right.
right? It really did. And then the difference, though, was that they had no positive experience with the church, with a community that would love them and be with them as I did.
Hmm.
And that is where God then really spoke to me pretty loudly, and then saying, "Hey, this is where I want you."
Wow.
And it took the executive director at Focus on the Family at the place I was volunteering. I would come into our team meetings and just say, "Hey, can you pray? I'm seeing this opportunity to work with guys." And he pulled me into his office one day. His name was Colin. He didn't even know what the hip hop community was. And but what he said was, Michael, I see you're impacting men that we're not able to reach here. And I really think you should consider starting a ministry. And Mark, that was it. And I shifted from a business econ degree and loving working with Excel, which I still love, and all these numbers to a hip hop ministry.
Wow.
And I had no idea what I was doing. And what also, and I've reached out to Colin a few times now just to say the time you took, because then he would meet with me every week just to start to envision. He didn't know, again, what hip hop was, but he understood what it was, right? To have vision and mission and purpose. And he started to invest in me, even in something he didn't understand. And God has used men like that all throughout this journey for me, Mark,
Yeah.
where they've been able to help guide and to see a passion, even if they don't understand that passion, they want to really unleash that in other men. And
Hmm.
so Colin is someone who again has been a big marker in my life. And so that was in 2004,
Hmm.
and that was when everything changed.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. Now I remember being blown away because we were going through college, we're going, young adult stuff.
Mhm.
And at some point I saw a video of you on this dance floor, like sliding across the floor on your head.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown because I'm like, what? That's my buddy Michael Sway from high school, and it was pretty cool. Like I remember getting really excited for you, and like obviously you have those gifts of connecting with people at a
Mhm.
relational level, but then you
Yeah.
also it's apparently are backing it up with a skill set of immersing yourself in that culture and in that sport activity. I don't know how you want to define it, but
Yeah. Right.
to what degree are you like practicing and like
Yeah.
that is that the whole social thing where you're talking and then you're dancing together? Like tell me about that.
Yeah. So, and my wife, Ellen, will laugh sometimes because I'm 44, right? And I'm almost 45. I'm just saying, how much longer, can you, can you do this? But it really is, Mark, for me. I really love, the dance aspect of it. But it is the relational and social aspect. And when you really get into this community now, when I came back from Melbourne, went out to LA to start, have been in Dallas, Chicago, Colorado Springs, Denver, have been in cities, Latin America, Africa, Europe, right? All these cities. And at the heart of this community, at the heart of hip hop, it's this idea of to want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
When hip hop was really birthed and born, it was out of hardship, and these young men wanted to show creativity to be known by others, within this creative process. And so, still at the heart of it, I still go to practices, still engage community. At the heart of it is that relational part. And you could probably, speak to this better than I could,
Yeah.
but as a man, I feel like we can bond really well over physical activity,
Right.
right? I think there's something powerful to that, where because we're in a practice, spend 3 hours together doing this, there is a bonding to that,
Yeah.
and we see a lot of deep relationships, and
Yeah.
that's seems to be pretty universal. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I mean, I've observed that too, as a
Mm,
therapist and in my own personal life. I mean, the joke, right, is that females are smiling and nodding their head and staring like face to face. And as guys,
yeah.
we're kind of shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
Um, but of course, it's like saying, yeah, it's okay that we're wired a little differently, but deep down in our heart of
Mm,
hearts, we still desire a deeper connection, right? And
mm,
brothers that we can trust and go through life together. And so
right.
sometimes that side by side and physical activity is almost like that window in uh, where trust is built, brotherhood is formed, and then some of those
Yeah.
deeper conversations can happen. And I'm imagining that you've seen that over and over again in your ministry. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's very cool. When you're talking about these big cities that you were in,
Yeah.
it makes me so curious too. Um, came up the other day in one of our staff meetings with my fellow therapists, but that idea that through Christ there's this unity, that there's no longer
Mm,
male or female, slave or free, Jew or Greek, right? We're all one in Christ Jesus.
yeah.
And yet we live in this broken world, right? With a lot of division,
Mm,
a lot of tribalism, a lot of just a lot of woundedness. And so
yeah.
as you're entering into this hip hop space, did you find that there were any cultural or like racial dynamics that made it difficult from a Minnesota guy like you stepping
Yeah.
into that space, or like or was it less friction than you anticipated? Was there more? How did that work?
Yeah. That's a great question, because really my first deep exposure to that was in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And and there was that friction, where within that community, and again, every city is different too,
Sure.
but within that community, it's majority Black and Hispanic within the hip hop scene. And so yes, for me to walk in, there was uh, some trust and relational, right, friction initially, but and this wasn't anything I planned, Mark, again, but just
Yeah.
how God uses this, because I would dance, right? You walk into a space, guys are dancing together because I would dance. It is much less than I anticipated.
Huh.
And so being able to have that, and in hip hop in and of itself prides itself on unity. Now,
Hmm.
the unity is pretty shallow when you really dig into it. But there is an idea there that if you are involved in one of the elements of hip hop, there's an acceptance. And again, on somewhat of a shallow level, but that is true. And so because I would go in, and because I would work hard, and I wasn't the best breakdancer, by any stretch, but they saw that I was humble, that I would work hard. The relationships grew rather quickly. And when you take an interest in somebody, even ask a question, right? Of like, hey, can I hear a little bit of your story? Like you
Yeah.
did to
Right.
me at the beginning, right? That's a very affirming question, and to feel seen and heard in that. To think that most men, I'll say men because that's who we're working with,
Right.
don't get asked that very often. And
Yeah.
then to really actually listen and to
Yeah.
and to hear a story, and to see someone on a Monday night at a practice, and then on Wednesday or Friday, and to follow up with their name and with a question from what I heard last week. That was uniquely powerful, in this context.
Yeah.
because, really at the end of the day, for someone to feel that affirmation, that was more powerful than any other dividing factor.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think, because of that, and because I was participating in what they were participating in, those barriers were knocked down pretty quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, that's powerful. And so early on, I mean, you're kind of figuring things out as you go, but
Yeah.
are you just literally like, okay, I'm in LA. There's this group of guys dancing under the bridge. I'm just gonna show up and be like, hey guys, hey,
Yeah.
and just start dancing and hope it works out, or like what?
Mark, it took me a year, Mark, to meet my first breakdancer. I laugh though because the bridge illustration, this might be a different story, but in Hungary, um, there was a through a trip. We were there under a bridge and they spliced their stereo into this wiring under the bridge. There's like 50 dancers just like breaking
No
under
way.
this bridge in Hungary. So that does happen in but here I am. I move out to I say LA. A family hosted me in Anaheim. So I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I'm in Anaheim. I need to go to LA. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. Social media wasn't very big yet in 2000. This was in 2005. And so I was really on my own. I didn't know how to find this community. I'd walk into clubs, I'd go and I couldn't find anyone more for a year. And I was questioning
Wow.
um, myself, questioning, Lord, what am I doing? Right? With my life. What am I doing out here?
Yeah.
Here I am trying to figure out a hip hop ministry. No one understands what I'm doing. No one really believes in what I'm doing. Everyone questions, right, what I'm doing. And it was on Easter then of 2006.
Hmm.
The family that hosts me is just having some friends over. And one of the family friends have an exchange student from Japan. His name's Ace.
Hmm.
And he's a breaker, B-boy. I'll use the term B-boy, it means
Yeah.
breakdancer.
Yeah.
He is a B-boy here from Japan. And he says, hey, I'm at Cal State Fullerton. Come practice with me. Come
Hmm.
with me. And so that's for my first exposure to a b-boy. So he and I start practicing together,
Sure.
and just he and I for 6 months, just Ace and I, and for 6 months again questioning though, God, is this it?
Yeah.
It's just me and Ace. And after 6 months, Mark, through our conversations and relationship, Ace comes to know Jesus, loves him, and becomes and is saved. And it was in those moments, Mark, where God too, in my journey, right, in trying to find identity, even in the success of a ministry,
Hmm.
is really starting to share, hey, Michael, this isn't about numbers, and this actually isn't about you, right? If I called you to this for Ace only, it's worth it,
Yeah.
right? It's worth it. And that to this day is a continual struggle for me, right? Not to find identity in success, not to define success by numbers, but those early lessons. And then Mark, after that moment, people just started coming to our spot. We had music going in this like open area at Cal State Fullerton. They started coming. We had 15 people, and that's when I started to hear, hey, there's a spot in Long Beach. Hey, here's a spot in LA. Here, spots that I couldn't find on my own.
Yeah.
And then truly within a matter of weeks, I was engaging about 150 to 200 men every week just by going to these spots. But
Yeah.
it took me a long time, Mark, and a lot of frustration, and and a lot of just soul searching on that, and the Lord needing to take me through a few things of what this calling meant. And again, as a man, how am I defining success, and where am I getting my identity from? But that was
Oh.
that was
That's
the story.
oh man, that is so cool to hear because I mean, I think about my counseling ministry, and a lot of the guys I work with
Yeah,
are a lot of them are leaders in their community, they're business owners. They haven't had maybe some of the similar rough upbringing that maybe some of the guys are that you've worked through, but interestingly enough,
yeah,
do have similar father wounds.
mm,
And it might have
yeah,
been a version of that in a successful family in some cases, where a
mm,
dad who worked really hard and was a good provider, but for whatever reason that the I love yous, the hugs, the attaboys
mm,
were just missing. And so
yeah,
that same kind of performance-based identity, which actually works pretty well in the business world, not so great
yeah,
for relationships,
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of guys find us at Lion Counseling is on
Mm,
paper, they've checked these boxes, right? That there are a lot of things going well, but they feel discontent. They feel their marriage is suffering. They feel disconnected from their kids. Their stress level is high. They've
mm.
they've they've achieved these things in life that they should supposedly be happy, and yet they don't feel peace, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and some of the guys we work with also are at an interesting crossroads, even guys of faith too, where should I take this new job? I started this new
Mm,
company and I'm grinding it out, but we're still not getting ahead. And I'm sure there are moments when you were in that waiting period of wondering, like, what is up, God? Like, how do you
yeah.
discern whether it's a matter of just staying faithful and persistent and God's going to see it through, or I missed something. I missed something and I'm running in the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
like Jonah, right? I mean, do you need the
Right.
whale to swallow you before you get the message? Or
Right.
and so like this, I get that may be a whole new podcast is just that question
Right.
of discerning, God's voice. But
Yeah.
in the ups and downs of that journey, like what did you learn about what God was up to and
Mm,
what he, I don't know how to put it, if you feel like he was cultivating something within you or preparing you for something, or what he might have been doing behind the scenes, why another way to ask it would be, what would have happened if he just dumped you into that spot, you know, on day one and hadn't had this like process to go through first?
right. Right. Yeah. Because the struggle, and really even still the struggle
Mhm.
now, and it's interesting you brought up Jonah, right? Because at the end of Jonah, Jonah's still not, right, happy with the Lord. And
He's not. God has a way of kind of forcing him where he needs to go, but yeah, he
right,
not
right.
happy about it. Yeah.
Not happy about it. And it just continues to show like God's grace in all this. And Mark, still to this day, and seeing it more clearly now of operating right from that, a lot of times that place of hurt and not feeling like a beloved, treasured son, and needing to feel like I'm earning and continuing to earn right my identity in that, and what I'm thankful for. Because even at that point, Mark, I wasn't able to identify that I was operating out of that place. But in the midst of that, he continued to provide people in my life, right? To be able to speak that. And because with so many blind spots that I had, discerning sometimes the voice of God is very difficult. And did I mishear you, right? Should I even be out here? What, again, I with a business degree, and shouldn't I go into
Right.
something more stable? And so one of the, I think, handles we have, no matter where we're at in life, right? No matter what we have going on, is that we are made for community, and we're
Yeah.
made, right, to have things even spoken into us. And so when we don't have our fathers to do that, or even some who have, right? Like you said, even in the healthiest of relationships, there's still that hurt that can happen, to continue to press into community.
Yeah.
And in that, right, the Lord can and does speak, very clearly. And so was able to, in those seasons, Mark, with the family I lived with people that of the church I was a part of, still had men in my life to speak that affirmation, and
Yeah.
to say, keep going. And in that. So I don't think I would have,
Wow.
apart from having others in my life, to continue to speak into me and to speak into that. And so that I'm really thankful for.
Wow.
And would say again, just as for all of us, no matter what we're going through, I think that is again a pretty constant value we need to have. Are we known,
Mm.
in some context, right, by people in some way? So that was really helpful. And those doubts don't leave. And I don't know with your experience with Lion and just through your journey as
Yeah.
well, but even as we grow and see success and fruit and those different terms, however we may define them, the doubts are still there,
Mhm.
and those struggles are still there. And so, at least from what I'm seeing, that's a continual process,
Yeah.
within our journey.
Yeah.
So to continue to have community. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think it is a journey. Not, it's something where we don't very few times in life can we really say we've arrived, right? Because
Yeah.
we're always a work in progress. We're always, even the people who seem to have it most put together. If you
Mm,
really knew their story, what their struggles were, it's just very, very human. We've all got stuff. We all have grief. We all have loss. We all have disappointments and heartaches and failures.
yeah.
And and I think that's so interesting that the overlap in our ministries too, because I mean, typically, as an EMDR therapist, that's a specific kind of trauma therapy that I take guys
Mm,
through. And the first two sessions are understanding their story,
mm,
identifying their core lie, and
mm,
then tracing it back in time to the specific memories of where those seeds were planted.
mm,
And then sometimes, and again, it's not just one thing, but it's that combination of support, love, encouragement around them,
mm,
having
yeah.
access to truthful, hopeful information about like who they really are and how they can understand that. And then that's another podcast too, but then kind of like an emotional
Yeah.
surgeon, I use that therapy process to kind of make that cut on each memory to see what lies are inside and then to help it to heal kind of at the source
Mm,
so that it's almost like the more memories that heal from that wound, the lighter the man feels as he walks through
mm.
life. He's carrying less bricks on his back, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and that's what I tell people. I think for a lot of guys, a lot of powerful healing can come through their faith, through community,
Mm,
through purpose. And then if
yeah.
there are lingering things that still feel unresolved in their past, um, sometimes it's just a matter of like in these mortal bodies that we have, their brains just kind of filing away some experiences in the wrong place, and they just need a little extra support to get that truth from the head to the heart because they already know the truth
Yeah.
here, but can they feel
Yeah.
it feel it in those moments where something would happen that brings them back to that place where maybe they feel like that wounded kid, um, and so yeah, I think there's similarities there for sure, and it almost seems like
Mm,
there's this I don't know if template is the right word, but it's almost like whether it's ministry to b-boys or whether it's being a therapist or whether it's being a good friend or being a business owner trying to influence your community in a positive way,
mm,
that very
yeah.
basic template of showing up, like actually caring
Mm,
and asking the kinds of questions for someone to be able to like reveal a little bit more of who they are. And
yeah.
it's such a rare skill to actually be a good listener these days that it's just like incredibly refreshing and surprising
Mm,
when people encounter it, because I can't tell you how many, like if you like go through a random sampling of like people at your church or your friends, and you're like, okay, yep, they're smart, yeah, they're caring, are they a good listener? Like maybe, maybe not. It kind of depends on the
right.
person, right? Um, and so there's such power in that. And then I suppose as the spirit leads and as the relationship deepens and as opportunities present themselves, you found all these opportunities for these guys not only know that you care about them and they can trust you, but that you have a story too.
Right.
And then that Jesus is part of that story.
Yeah.
That's part of what's helped you to transform and heal. And it makes people curious, I bet, about like what that could be like in their life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. And Mark, it's fascinating what you just brought up because for men who don't feel listened to, they will rarely, right? They're not good listeners. Why would they be, right? They're
Right.
competing to try to like get their story out. But yeah, as you do, then for them to ask those questions, that's actually a really good marker for us to see, is there healthiness coming along? Is someone able to kind of ask and be interested or curious back?
Yeah.
And that can take years sometimes,
That's
right? Where someone will even ask a story, but it makes sense, right?
yeah.
Why not? But then as you're more freed up, then you can start being that for others, right? And so yeah, that's what we've seen as well.
That's
And
really
yeah.
cool. I mean, it makes me think a little bit. Our church brought us through this curriculum called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And it's by
Mm,
this pastor named Pete Scazzero. And his big insight, as he was a successful pastor who almost had his marriage fall apart and almost burned out, is he started to realize
mm,
that spirituality could not be in a silo apart from emotional health and relational health. And that to be
mm,
emotionally healthy was actually an integral part of having spiritual health, just as we walk out our faith. Because as we all know, someone can be very religious and do a lot of quote unquote really good things, but if inside that you're feeling a lot of like resentment and bitterness and anger, it's like, oh man, like there's something
mm.
that's worthy of healing, that's worthy of attention there. And so yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, unique ministries, but there are these overlapping principles of listening and care, right? Um, well, okay, so
Yeah.
it makes me curious too. As you've seen this ministry grow and evolve over time, what does Break Free look like
Hmm.
today? And what parts of it are you most excited about or curious about? Like I'd love to hear kind of, I know we're making a big jump from
Yeah.
that first year all the way to today, but I'd love to hear like tell me about the
Right.
ministry now. What does it look like?
Yeah. So what we've seen, right, is this, like we've talked about some of these universal truths of
Mhm.
what we need, right?
Right.
And how healing comes and in that and how life, right, is broad and purpose. And so it's been really neat, Mark, because we've seen more and more and it's nothing new, but like that this happens in community.
Yeah.
Right. And I think so very often in the church today, and it's, we view discipleship as kind of this one-on-one thing or kind of in the silo. But so as we have been using that terminology of right of making disciples, right, of followers of Jesus, and believing that within that sonship, daughtership is found and healing is found, that needs to be in community. And so we have we have moved into saying we want to actually plant the church, and we'd say these little micro churches,
Yeah.
right, within wherever this community is meeting, wherever the community is meeting, and they're already meeting. We want the church. So not only just are we trying to reach individuals, but we're saying we want community there where these men can be known, grow, and we feel like that kind of community is going to impact then their families and their communities. And so for us, Mark, that's been pretty new, and something we are so excited about,
Wow.
and something that, like I've said, we what was neat, Mark, is when we presented this idea. So
Yep.
as you said, we're global, so we have, whether it be cities in Africa, Latin America, Europe, different cities here in North America. Every single leader said, yes, this is exactly what we need, right?
Wow.
And just seeing the unity of that across all these different cultures. Now, again, how it looks, it'll differ a little bit. How it looks in Cameroon, West Africa, compared to Philly or Denver or Buenos Aires, right? The outworking of it will be a little different, and that too has been really exciting, to be able to walk through the different outworkings of these truths, right, across different cultures and across different languages, and across all that. So that has been really exciting for us.
Yeah.
And I'll just, if I can just share
I'd
this,
love to hear
real
it.
quick.
Yeah.
So my first experience, right, as I had shared, was with this Japanese b-boy Ace.
Uh-huh.
And I remember him asking me, "Hey, can I pray in Japanese?" Right? Just this beautiful expression. Like, of course, right? Like this is, the God of every tongue, tribe, nation, right? Like this is our diversity is beautiful in this. I remember sitting with a man in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and he's speaking French. We need a translator. And he was a father. He came from a polygamous home.
Mm.
And as a son of the third wife, he had very little interaction with his father.
Huh.
And for him and I, we were sitting there all sweaty because we had practiced, and those guys practiced for like 8 hours at a time.
Dang.
That was hard for me to keep up. But like we had said beginning, because of that interaction initially physically, I really felt like that broke down some barriers. But for him and I to sit and to connect, like you said, with story, I, I didn't feel like a treasured son, right?
Mm.
I didn't either. And yet within the gospel, right? You have a father that's pursued you, has
Yeah.
come after you, who knows you at your worst, right? Because really, as a father, and I'm a father of four, I know you're father.
Yeah.
So one of our main roles is to love our kids, right? Through their failure, through all of that, to know that they are loved no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And to have that connection, right? And we're sitting there, translate, our skin color is different, our language is different, our experiences can be very different. But to connect
Mm.
on that level, it's in those moments, Mark. And and for those who are listening, who know the word, there's a scripture where it says God will do more than we can ever think or imagine,
Yeah.
right? When I first was imagining this and praying about this, I didn't even know where Cameroon was. I didn't even know to like think or to pray that somehow this would, but here we were sitting with a team of missionaries in Yaoundé, Cameroon, reaching men all across that city. And when we talked to those missionaries and we said, what would it look like in 20 years?
Hmm.
If Break Free is successful, right? What will this look like in your
Sure.
culture? And here's what they said. We'll see more marriages, more fathers, and the church will be more creative in their disciple making. I mean, just
Hmm.
blew us away. It's exactly what we want to see. And
Wow.
so, Mark, it's those moments,
Yeah.
right? Those moments aren't all the time, but it's in those moments that continue to motivate, you know, and bring that tenacity to keep moving forward.
Wow. Thanks so much for sharing that. I mean, that is
Yeah.
powerful and beautiful and hopeful. And
I hope. Yeah.
it is. It's yeah, it's so hopeful. And you can have the best business plan in the world, right? Or the best like church strategy plan in the world, but there's something to be said for just those relationships. There's no substitute, right? For those relationships that are
Mm,
one-on-one.
right.
And and yeah, and interestingly enough too, I mean, it can be easy for us as guys to try to stay in that box of being logical and practical and to remind ourselves that we can dream big, and that God is capable of more than
Mm,
we could ever imagine. I mean, that's some of our listeners know that
yeah.
for Lion Counseling, we have kind of like five core values. Uh, and it's provide and protect, kind of traditional masculine values, but also
Mm,
create
mm,
and love and leave a legacy. And so there's this sense that in these weird culture wars that we're in right now, and what does it mean to be a guy? It can be easy to double down too hard on one side and forget that like our Savior, right? I mean, who cared deeply and who wept from time to time, and it's like it's okay to be a human with unique gifts. It's okay to be a man with unique talents and ways of seeing the world. Um, and creating and loving is not it's not creating and loving isn't like a feminine quality. It's like deeply embedded in us as humans and for us as men too, right? So I think I think it's so cool to hear about the way that you're ministering to the hearts of men.
Yeah.
And I mean that kind of brings up a question I ask our guests too,
Mm,
is I know it's somewhat subjective, but again, we're also dovetailing into these universal truths that we're
mm,
trying to uncover and trying to articulate.
mm,
What does it mean? What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a quote unquote real man? I mean, I'm sure that that subject, whether it's spoken aloud or not, is kind of in
mm,
the room in these conversations you've had with these men who have had different wounds in their life. And so, I mean, from your perspective,
yeah.
what would you say to that question? What does it mean to be a man?
Mm, yeah. Yeah. So for me, first and foremost, it means being a son, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is built into who we are. I was sitting down the other day with a guy I work with, ex-military, as you would think, a man's man in that way. And we were talking, and he said, Michael, he goes, I've never felt like a son
Hmm.
from the start. I've always had to be a father, the responsible one,
Oh,
right? Moving into
interesting.
that stage, right, too early. And very much that strong, tough provider, which
Yeah,
are good things, right?
definitely.
So good, right?
Yeah.
And I think so often, right, we approach these as an either or instead of the both and.
Right.
And he was never able to press into the sonship
Hmm.
that he needed to as a man, right? The idea of to have that identity built, to not always feel like he had to be the one, right, to provide
Wow.
and that. And so, Mark, as you said, there is so much to that, and to be able to affirm in him, right, the strengths of provision, the strength of responsibility, as you said, to show up, but also to grieve and to walk through what was missing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and what wasn't there. So I would just, I'd say that at the heart of manhood is sonship,
Wow.
and I think it makes sense again from someone who is a Christian with the worldview that we have a spiritual enemy as well, to really come after fatherhood. If you want to take down men, right, to be able to impact their view as being sons, it makes sense why that's such a
Wow.
hard area for us. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really, I think that's powerful way you're framing that is
Mm,
first and foremost to be a man is to be a son.
mm.
And it's like at a very basic level, we only are in this world because we are a son, because we,
Right.
and then at a spiritual level, back to full circle, back to you talk about adoption, being adopted by a
Mm,
loving father who's been pursuing us our whole lives,
yeah.
whether we know it or not. And then I think as we're talking through it, it also strikes me that a really strong, like really powerful, good trait for us as guys is courage, but it's not just courage to, and again, back to the either or, it can feel like this touchy worldy, touchy feely world of feelings is like, it might feel like it's this soft, it's weak, it's feminine, this stuff. But the truth
Mm,
is, we are created to be emotional beings too.
mm.
And if we ignore them and pretend that they're not there, it's like neglecting the electricity in the wires in our house or something like the electricity. It's like
Yeah.
things are going to start to spark and they're going to get out of whack and something might light on fire, right? And so to be
Mm,
able
yeah.
to have the courage to work your butt off, to provide for your family, to protect your family, and the courage to face hard things within yourself, that's the missing
Mm,
piece, I think, for a lot of the guys that I work with is they've come to that point where it's like the check engine light has been on for way too long in their heart, and they're like, I can't
yeah.
keep driving
Yeah.
this thing. I have to take a look at it, and to know that to find a solid brother, a pastor,
Mm,
a brother in Christ, a solid Christian counselor, someone who can speak truth and also create a space where they can tell their story and really there can be some honesty and
mm,
and some authentic care in that process. And I think you put it so well to how did you say to grieve and move through those wounds.
mm. Yeah.
Because if we don't have the courage to find some way to do that as guys, then we are depriving ourselves and our families of so much. And
Mm,
and I kind of imagine our Father in heaven just kind of like feeling a little sad about it. Like I have so much more for you. I want so much more for you. And
right.
and sometimes all it takes is a first
Good.
step, right? A first step to open up a little bit, to go to that guy's group, to call up that old friend,
Mm,
to set up that first counseling appointment. To just have an
yeah.
open heart to a way to connect, to get some support, to get some help, to get some community, right? Um,
Mm,
so yeah, being a son as a powerful way to
mhm,
frame what it means to be a man. I love that.
mm.
And
Hey, Mark, on that, so when my check engine light comes on in my car, often I just like cover it up and I ignore it, right?
uh-huh,
Like,
uh-huh.
and it takes my car breaking down, right? Getting the tow truck, which just happened to me a few months ago,
Yeah.
to really pay attention. Do you find with a lot of us as men that it takes those catastrophic moments at times to pay attention? And if so, are there ways for us with other men to maybe help them notice that engine light before it really becomes a catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean that gets right to the heart of, what I do at Line Counseling. I mean,
Mm,
unfortunately, oftentimes it is kind of that crisis point that
yeah,
brings, yeah, because what's worked for so many of the guys that we see is just buckling down, putting your head down, working harder, grinding through it.
yeah,
I mean, the quote unquote, I just kind of moved past it. I got over it. But what they really did was they sidestepped something
mm,
that's still there. It's in the back of their mind. It's in their heart. Um, and just like physical wounds, if they're not attended to, if they aren't at least scrubbed out and bandaged up and sometimes stitched up, or a broken bone that isn't set, our body will try to heal it, but it might not heal straight. It might heal in
yeah,
the wrong way, right? And so some of the guys come to me and they're like, you know what? This thing never healed quite right. Or some guys are just they don't even know what's wrong. They need a back to the mechanic metaphor. They need a full diagnostic on the car. Like just run it through, figure out what is wrong with the engine because all I know is my wife wants a divorce or
yeah.
my adult kids won't talk to me or I have to go into the boardroom and now I'm starting to have a racing heart and I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack and it's never happened before.
Mm,
Right. It's stuff like that. Or it's
yeah,
things like or I'm on my vacation and I can't stop checking my phone and even enjoying these beautiful kids and beautiful wife that I have right in front of me. And
right.
I'm disconnected or I'm drinking a little too much if I'm honest. Or it's these things that sneak up on us as guys, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when we're in physical or emotional pain, we naturally just scream for relief. And there are certain
Mm,
habits that can give us short-term relief, but then long-term they're destructive, right? And so
yep, yep.
so I think back to the question
Mm,
of can you catch it early? I mean, that would be my hope. Like, I mean, part of it's awareness. It's like
right.
a guy listening to this podcast today and saying, yeah, I'm not quite to that point yet, but I am seeing some warning signs. And if
Yeah,
I can do maintenance on the car essentially ahead of time, actually get the oil changed, actually get the brakes fixed um, before it becomes a disaster, it saves everyone so much time and money and pain. It's like the best investment that you could ever make.
yeah,
And for one guy, it might be making that first phone call, right? And
right.
talking to a Christian counselor like we do at Lion. For another guy, it's like, hey, I haven't prayed like in 3 months. It's just like getting on your knees in the bedroom at night and be like, all right, God, here I am. Like, I cannot do this
Yeah,
by myself.
right,
It's like, I
right.
surrender. Like, show me what's next. What do I do? Um,
Mm,
but again, it's like that small step of courage of having the guts to say, even though this feels weak, it's maybe
mm.
showing some of the biggest strength that I have, the courage that I have to take the step. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Mark, that's so good.
Yeah.
And I want to give a quick just shout out to my wife if I can, because for those of us who are married, there's a unique mystery in becoming one with someone, right?
Yep.
And I don't understand that fully. But there was also then, because of that powerful nature, my tendency to hide was sometimes more strong with Ellen than with anybody else.
Sure.
And as I started to become more and more just brutally honest with her with these things,
Yeah.
God worked in that in incredible ways. My
Wow.
wife has been so gracious and so forgiving in those moments. And that was what I was most scared of,
Huh.
right? If I'm really known. And so I just want to Ellen has been an incredible partner, and there's something unique, and not that single guys couldn't find this or
Yeah.
divorced
Yeah.
guys, but like for those of us who are, the way God speaks and uses our wives when we're open with them and take that step. I was so scared, Mark, to do that. And through counseling and through community to be able to do that more and more, I've seen God work through that in uniquely powerful ways to
Wow.
really be known.
Oh, that's so cool, Mike. I mean, I mean, I appreciate you sharing that,
Mm,
and honoring your wife that way and just
mm,
being modeling that vulnerability for other guys. I mean, I don't have it all figured out as a therapist. I mean, that like
Yeah.
the joke in the therapy world is that we all have imposter syndrome, they call it. It's like we all feel like we're this big fake, and who do we think we are helping other people? And and so what we do is and I've get your own therapy. I've done it like three
Mm,
different rounds trying to get old wounds healed up, and it's made me a better dad, a better
yeah.
husband, a better friend, better therapist, right? And it's a
Yeah.
tool. It's a tool.
Yep.
We want to be able to feel a sense of, I mean, that word integrity, right?
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
integration. It to not be different faces and different masks and different disjointed selves, depending on who we're with and where we are. But to have some degree of integrity means that there's those parts of us are communicating with each other. There's some glue
Mm,
that holds our identity together, and things like prayer and friendship and encouragement and counseling, um, and all sorts of other good strategies. They're those things, right, that can help glue us
yeah.
back together with God's help, right? And
Uh,
um, I'm mixing a lot of metaphors. I mean, you can't glue a car back together, so I'm not sure.
I don't know either, right? Like I probably tried.
Um, all right, so all right,
Yeah.
this is good stuff. This is good stuff. So, the other question that we ask um, our guests, besides what is a man,
Mm,
is through our lens as Christians, we know that this life in some ways is but a vapor.
yeah.
It's fleeting, and yet there's something so important about this earthly life that God chose to create it this way.
Mm,
And so, even though things in this world aren't, some things aren't really lasting, there is this sense of legacy that a lot of the guys we work with are thinking about. Uh,
yeah.
what are the ripple effects that go out in time, even after I'm gone? What does
Mm,
that look like? And so this is a personal question, I guess, but
yeah.
for you, Michael Swalley, in high school known as Sway McLeod,
That's right. Yeah.
that's a solid nickname. I can't remember who gave it to you, but uh,
On the football field, it
probably on
was
the
Todd. I'll share that maybe if you, me, and Todd ever, do a podcast, but I won't show this, but yes,
yes.
still use it as my email.
That's our clickbait for the next podcast.
There we go.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Um, but yeah, for you, what would you like your legacy to be? What would you like the
Mm,
impact to be? Well, how would you even like to be remembered? I mean, I know it's like, do we remember our great grandparents? Maybe just an old photo. So that's a tricky one, right? But
right.
like, I
Right.
think you know what I'm getting at. Like what?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I do. You know, um, Mark, as I've really thought through this, right? And we serve a generational God who, right, will work through the generations. Um, I really want to be known ultimately, not even as a man who loved God, but as a son who was loved by God.
Uh,
And it's this idea that then would free me up, but for my kids, right, to know and how, dad, was quick to apologize, was open about his hardship and mistakes, but man, God really loved him, right? Can I speak about the grace of God in that way? Can people see that, wow, he is a beloved son, and that show up then in the way I provide, in the passion that I have, in the way that I can respond to my kids, in the way that I can love my wife. And so, it's that he is loved,
wow.
and that has freed him up. And I will say, just Steve, I stole that from Judas Smith, a pastor out in Oregon. He was sharing about that, but I've taken that and really run with
Mm.
it, Mark. Um, and for that, I think it will give us boldness, right? When we look at it, I won't go too much into
No,
this,
it's
but
great.
at least the one disciple that was recorded at being at the cross, though there might have been more, but at least the only one that it was recorded, we heard that all fled, all abandoned. But John was at the cross,
Mm,
right? And when you read John's gospel, what really comes out, especially at the end, is that he makes much of him being loved by Jesus.
mm,
and he makes much of being beloved. So how do we show up when it's hard? How do we show up when everyone leaves? And I think that's also part of the definition of a man, right? You show up when it's hard.
Wow.
Do you believe you're loved? That's what I want, Mark. Is
Oh,
that?
wow. Well, that is, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Mm,
And
yeah, yeah.
man, and if I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking like, man, the truth is you are, brother. You know,
Mm,
yeah, by so many.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and, and most importantly by God. But
Mm,
but that is the truth. And um it feels like a little for so many men, life and identity is performance based.
mhm,
And everything from trying to get a wife to get a job to find success in this world is some of it's based on performance, let's be honest. And so to believe that our foundation of our identity could be someone who is loved deeply
mm,
by our Father in heaven, it's counterintuitive and it feels risky, man, because if I just sit down and just believe I'm loved, am I going to lose my edge? Am I
right?
going to
Yeah,
lose my motivation? Am I going to lose my
yeah.
fire? And what I think what we've discovered, and what millions or billions of other Christians have discovered before us is that
Mm,
if you take that risk of allowing yourself to take off the armor and to try as hard as it can be with our wounds to embrace that love, that deep love of our Father, we have all the motivation we need because it
mm.
it 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 springs forth into love that pours out toward others and gratitude and purpose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And that's real time too. It's like I'm on a podcast. Am I doing well? Are people going to like this? Are they going to listen, right?
yeah,
Is Mark ever going to invite me back? It's like the real time struggle
for sure.
of that. It's
Yeah,
there. And Mark, again, if I could just say one more thing too,
yeah,
just with my father as well, right? It's not an either or, right? He struggled, but he was a very loving father from
yeah,
everything I've heard. And people speak so highly of him. He's a good father,
yeah,
and he struggled, right? And there's generational pain, but he was a good father,
yeah,
and he loved well.
yeah,
And in that struggle, and so I also just want to honor him too. That
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's yeah, and that's so powerful to hear because that's another thing that the guys that I work with are afraid of, that they're
mm,
afraid that therapy means throwing their parents under the bus
mm, yeah,
or dishonoring them in some way. And no, that's not the case. It's like you said,
right,
it's just saying even good parents, even loving parents, or people who are a mixed bag, like I am as well, like
yeah,
loving to the best of our ability, given our limitations and our own woundedness. Um, it's important for us as men to hear that we can still grieve what wasn't there, even if a lot of good was there,
yeah,
and we can still
yep,
heal from those things. And then I guess the other word I would just share with the guys listening out there is, in light of what you just said and modeled for us, is if you're out there and you are just racked by a failure, a perceived failure, by guilt, by heartache, just to hear from me, to hear from us that we are not defined by our biggest failure,
right,
right? There's so much
right,
more to what makes a man than our biggest failure, and that's what gets the airtime. But again, if we come full circle to know that there can be love, there can be forgiveness, there can be a fresh start, and if at the end of the day, my identity is not my failure or perceived failure, but my identity as a son
mhm,
who's deeply loved by a God who wants nothing but the very best for us and has a plan and a purpose
yeah,
for us. Like that's such good news. And there's hope in that, right? And even if you're grinding
mm,
it out for a year and you're in Anaheim, California, uh,
yeah,
dancing with a Japanese b-boy,
right,
I mean, there might be only a few guys listening who are actually replicating that at this moment.
right, yeah.
But metaphorically, if you are doing that right now, Just wait. Be faithful.
Just wait.
Just wait, be
Yeah.
faithful, see it through. God will let you know if there's a brick wall and it keeps being a brick wall, maybe there's a new direction.
Yeah.
But if we continue to surrender and say, all right, I'm here. I'm
Yep.
here. Show me the way. Like things do tend to work themselves out. And we end up, and then we look
Yeah.
back and we see his hand at work along the way, along the journey. So well, you shared some powerful things,
Mm.
and just really grateful for you. I'll call you Sway because
Thanks,
that's what I
Mark.
call you normally. And
I'll call you Tang, and that's for another podcast too, unless you've explained it to
I have not
people. But
explained it. And
okay.
throw in the comments. You, let's just say it has to do with an orange drink from high school and a T-shirt that I may have worn at times. And but it's been a blessing reconnecting. It's been
Thanks.
too long, Sway. But what is there anything else you'd like to? Well, I'd love to hear how people can find you, how people could learn more about Break Free, or if they feel moved to be part of it in some way.
Yeah.
Praying, financial support, finding a place to dance and
Right.
connect,
Yes.
right? How do people find you?
Yes. Yeah. For all the breakdancers listening,
Yeah.
go on our website to find practice spots. But our website, Mark, is Break Free 2024.
Okay.
We added the 2024 because there's a lot of Break Free ministries, right? Break Free,
Oh, I
Set Free,
bet.
Break Free.
Yeah.
And so the 2024 is Acts 2024 of Paul saying, if I but give my life for the gospel, right? This is all my life is to be faithful, right, to that. But Break Free 2024 is how you can find us at our website, Break Free Ministries on Instagram. You'll see a lot of the workings around the world and what God is doing through men. But really, at the heart of what we do, Mark, is that we want to see sonship in a fatherless generation, like really see men, right, find their sonship. And so would love to engage, would love to interact, right? And for those who can't relate to hip hop, that's all right. But to that, I pray they can. So it's Break Free 2024, and then
Nice.
on Instagram, it's Break Free Ministries, and would love to just hear and engage with people.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Mike. Well,
Yeah.
I have one last question. That
Oh,
might be the most profound and meaningful question, or this might be sarcastic. But given that your journey started in Melbourne,
yes. Oh,
and given that breakdancing was in the Olympics, and we got exposed to that one now viral Australian lady with her
oh.
kangaroo breakdancing moves, I just want to know if you have any strong opinions either way, and how God might be connecting the two of you in the future in some kind of I don't know. I'm just curious.
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't ask this, Mark. I was really hoping you would. It pains me, right, that the lone memory of most people is of the kangaroo dancer from Australia. Oh, who single-handedly changed our culture with that one move.
By making
Halloween
it cooler, by
costumes.
making it
By
much
making it
cooler.
much
Yeah.
cooler, right? Yeah, the hip hop community loves that. But it hasn't escaped me. It hasn't escaped me, right? That the viral piece is where it started. So we will see the 2032 Olympics are in Australia. So we will see how God
Ooh,
brings these two together. So wait and see. Wait and see.
sounds good. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. And again, for anyone who's looking for a little support, feel free to do a free call at escapethecagenow.com. And we'd be happy to do that free phone call with you. And if you enjoyed anything about today's podcast, have any experiences that feel connected to this talk today I had with Michael Swalley, feel free to drop some comments below, and we'd love to respond to them. Take care, everybody. Bye.